What's up, everybody? John Hoover from the Franchise, and you are on the recap, my weekly roundup of the week that was, covering college football for 107.7 The Franchise in Oklahoma City, 107.9 The Franchise Tulsa, also for Sporting News, for the Inside OU podcast, and lots more, parts unknown. So I had another big week covering college football here in the state of Oklahoma. Started out in Stillwater. I'm going to end up in Austin, Texas. It's an unbelievable week, but here's how it went down. Middle of the week, I wrote a column for Sporting News. You can find that at sportingnews.com. Just click on the NCAA football tab. This one was about the Big 12's big week. What an unbelievable week for the Big 12 last week. 5-2 against Power 5 conferences. Let's look at the scores. Kansas goes on the road to Boston College and takes down BC 48-24. West Virginia, okay, at home against NC State, they end up winning 44-27. Kansas State goes on the road in the SEC and takes down Mississippi State 31-24. TCU goes on the road in the Big Ten Conference and just obliterates Purdue 34-3. And then, of course, the big one for the Big 12, Oklahoma goes out to California, Pasadena, Los Angeles, and takes down UCLA like their tissue paper. It was a rough road for UCLA against that Oklahoma team. This OU team might be something special. Now, I said 5-2, and what that means is the two losses probably could have been wins in a perfect world. Start with Iowa beating Iowa State 18-17. That game turns on the final possession on a fumbled punt, a crazy fumbled punt. You saw that one. And then Arizona beats Texas Tech 28-14. Again, I mentioned the record, 5-2 against Power 5 conferences, according to Big 12 research now, okay? This is the most wins, 5 wins against Power 5 conference teams in 1 week of any other Power 5 conference since at least 1996. Ties for the most. Pac-12's done it twice. Here's the bottom line, and here's what I wrote at Sporting News. The Big 12 is beating Power 5 opponents at a higher rate than they ever have. They currently have the best non-conference record, okay, non-conference record of any Power 5 conference in the country. It's also their best non-conference mark since before conference realignment, way back in 2010, 2011, 2012. And think about this, bowl games are goofy, we all know that, but the Big 12 is the only Power 5 conference right now with a winning record each of the last 3 bowl seasons. I do think that stands for something. I want to go over a couple of quotes that I got from talking to Big 12 coaches on the Monday teleconference. Had to do that while I was in the car on the way to Stillwater, but got some good quotes from Gary Patterson. Everybody keeps talking about us not being very good. Lincoln Riley, I talked to him Monday night after the Sooners had practice. Here's what Lincoln said. He said, I think at times there's been, with a couple of the major networks and other people out there, okay, I wonder who that is, he said there's been that anointing of other leagues. But then he said, I don't really feel it as much now, though.
We got a lot of good teams, we got a lot of good players, a lot of good coaches in this league. So that's, and again, just having been through it and had the chance to win it, you know, a couple of times, it's, I know how hard it's been. And so it's just as hard to win this league as there is any of them out there.
Les Miles said, I think the Big 12 is making its mark. And a quick quote from Tom Herman, he said, I think top to bottom, this league is as deep a league as there is, 1 through 10. He said, you get to teams 8, 9, and 10 in other conferences, and for teams 1 and 2, it's a pretty easy day at the office. Oh, was that not a shot at the SEC? I'm sorry, let me keep going. He said, in the Big 12, you got to bring your A game every week. We play each other, and maybe sometimes we beat up on each other because we play each other. We don't go 7 or 8 years without playing another conference opponent. Tell me that's not a shot at the SEC. You know what he means. Maybe my favorite statistic from the week, from the Big 12 games last week. And we're talking about a conference here that's been maligned for not playing defense. That's been maligned for playing, criticized heavily for playing too much offense, throwing the football around too much, not really valuing the rushing game. Listen to some of these numbers. In their wins last week, these were on the road, don't forget. Kansas rushed for 329 yards. TCU rushed for 346 yards. Oklahoma rushed for 309 yards. And then Oklahoma State goes on the road against a group of 5 opponent in the University of Tulsa, right here in my city. And Cowboys rushed for 337 yards, okay? Now you want to talk about defense? Big 12 opponents averaged just 20 points per game last week. That's pretty good. And to take that a step further, 5 of those opponents failed to exceed 21 points, and none of them, not one Big 12 opponent last week scored more than 28. So tell me again, Gary Patterson, who's playing defense and who's not? I mean, what is this, 1998? So find that column, again, sportingnews.com, click on the NCAA football tab. It's going to be right there up near the top of the homepage. Or if you want to make it simple, just go to thefranchiseok.com. There's a preview right there. Click on that preview. It'll take you to the Sporting News link if you can't find it. So it's all right there. And speaking of the franchise, I wrote 2 columns for the franchise this week. So far, there's more to come. But early in the week, again, I talked to Mike Gundy on Monday, interviewed him at his press conference. Big game this week at Texas. It's going to be a showdown. Think about this. Okay, Sam Ehlinger has been fantastic this year throwing the football. Is it for real? Well, he did it against LSU's defense. He had 401 yards and accounted for 5 touchdowns against LSU's defense. Yes, I think it's for real. Mike Gundy said he sees a real difference in Sam Ehlinger this year. You can see a better ball, higher completion percentage. Not just that, but the ball he throws is more accurate. It's more catchable. Guys are able to grab the football in stride, and that makes a huge difference for receivers, which makes a huge difference for getting first downs, moving the chains, and putting up points on the scoreboard. Sam Ehlinger, a much better quarterback this year than he has been, and we're talking about throwing the football. I think you're going to see him running the football a little bit less this year. I think that's going to be a theme that we're going to go back to and revisit several times throughout the college football season. And you talk about defensively, the Texas Longhorns are now dead last in the Big 12 Conference in passer efficiency defense, passing yards allowed, and total yards allowed. That means something. That's huge. Oklahoma State, why is that so important? Because Oklahoma State comes in with the leading rusher in the nation, okay? Chuba Hubbard averaging 174 yards a game. He had 256, 3 touchdowns on 32 carries last week. And then Tylan Wallace comes in. Huge game. Remember last year against Texas, he had 10 catches for 222 yards. Well, last week, he had a 90-yard touchdown, over 100 yards again. Tylan Wallace leads the nation in receiving yards, 130 yards per game. Texas is going to have to deal with that. And then to hear Tom Herman talk this week, he's also worried about Spencer Sanders, the Cowboys' redshirt freshman quarterback. He's a guy who obviously can run the football. He's very effective running it. But now it looks as though Spencer Sanders is also developing some touch in the passing game. Mike Gundy said he's still young, he's still learning, he's still developing. But there's no question Tom Herman has, so to speak, his defense's head on a swivel. Anyway, enough from me. Let's hear a little bit about what Mike Gundy said about this week's game at Texas.
Offensively, the quarterback's considerably better than he has been, in my opinion. My history at that position, he's 3 or 4 games into the game's probably slowed down for him, and you can tell he's a pretty good college quarterback. Ehlinger, in my opinion, is more comfortable and he's playing well and he's throwing the ball really accurate. It helps that you have guys out there that can help him. He just needs to stay in his world. He needs to play his game and distribute the ball based on what our coaches think's best with our offensive schemes, and he'll be fine. Chuba helps, right? I mean, Chuba's rolling pretty good. He's we want to try to keep him healthy. I think we gave it to him 32 times Saturday. Would prefer not to do that again, but if we have to, we will. He wants the ball, and so he's held up. This will be a good challenge for him this week, and for the offensive line. These guys are going to be, they're physical. They can run. So hopefully he can continue on and have good games like he's had up to this point.
So when I finished in Stillwater, I hit the road, as I always do, heading south this time to Norman, where I interviewed Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Lincoln Riley, Alex Grinch, and a handful, literally 5 Oklahoma defensive players. Here's what those guys had to say.
Starting to establish the culture that we want defensively. I mean, it was part of the plan all along is to play a lot of guys and to create competition and create depth and create development of your other players. And again, we're not going to, back to the other point, we're not going to play a guy just for those reasons. I mean, they have to show us why, but we're not going to get married to playing a guy 90 snaps in a game. I mean, it's just, it's hurt us in the past. I mean, there's no other way to say it.
There's only one true way to develop depth, and it's developing guys under the lights, on the stage, in the moment. And then, the next side of it is everybody's a better football player. Our sport is this way, playing 40 snaps as opposed to 80 snaps. We want guys feeling like survival on game days is not the ultimate aim. It's to play at a high level and to focus on that, effort, execution on every single rep.
And of course, you can find my OSU Texas preview as well as my OU story on their improved depth so far through the non-conference season at thefranchiseok.com, which is where you can also find this week's Ask Hoover blog, my college football mailbag on Twitter. This week's fan questions were absolutely great. I loved them. Listen, Oklahoma's on an open date, all right? And so what that means is I got questions from seemed like the entire Twitterverse was asking questions about college football not related to the Oklahoma Sooners. I got one OU question out of all of them. Here's some topics that I got to. Mike Leach, Big 12 expansion, Jim Harbaugh's job, Golden Hurricane, what's going on there, all kinds of stuff. You can find that and a heck of a lot more, again, thefranchiseok.com. But here's the deal with this Twitter blog, all right? If you want to get in on that, just ask me a question on Twitter, on my Twitter handle right here, at John E. Hoover, all right? And tweet me your question with the hashtag AskHoover, AskHoover, hashtag AskHoover. Check that out. I answer every question at thefranchiseok.com, and right here on the recap, I'm going to pull apart and dive into one favorite question each week. So this week's question is from Andy C. Wright on Twitter, who asks, through 3 games, Chuba Hubbard has 66 carries. At that pace, he would have 264 carries in 12 games. Only 6 running backs had over 261 carries last year. Okay, Jonathan Taylor, amazingly, at Wisconsin had 307. Think about that. Andy asks, is this workload sustainable, and is there a depth issue at running back at OSU? Here's my response. Yes, there's a depth issue at running back. L.D. Brown needs to be better. The guys who are behind Chuba Hubbard need to be better. They shouldn't have to give the football to Chuba Hubbard 32 times in an easy victory, a 19-point victory, 40-21 at the University of Tulsa. That was basically a home game for Oklahoma State. About 75% of the fans were orange, so that was a little bit of a waste, I thought. He had a great game, and you keep feeding a guy when he's that hot, obviously. 32 carries, 256 yards. But a couple of things I want to get to. Is 264 carries too much over 12 games? No, I don't think so. But again, we're talking an average here. Last week, 32 carries was too much. Week before, 8 carries? Not nearly enough. Chuba Hubbard, way more talented than that. So somewhere in between, Mike Gundy said he'd like to find 24, 25, 26 carries for Chuba Hubbard per game. I do think that is sustainable. He's a big guy. He's 6'1". He's 210 pounds. He's got good speed, which means he's not going to get hit downfield very often. Okay, guys who don't have good speed end up meeting those safeties and linebackers a little more forceful than they'd like. But Mike Gundy's right. At that body style, 6'1", 210, he needs to be able to carry the football a lot. Not 32. At least, listen, if you need him for 32 carries against Texas, here's my clarification. It's not that he can't do 32 carries. It's that when you do 32 carries against Tulsa, and then you have to turn around and hit the road and go the following week at Texas, can you do 32 carries at Texas? I don't know that you can. Your body requires, coming off of a 32 carry big game against Tulsa. And Tulsa's defense, by the way, don't sell them short. They hit. They will knock the hell out of you. But coming off a game like that, are you able to recover, bounce back, and get back in the game in case in Austin, Texas, if you are needed for 32 carries? Because I'm not so sure he's going to be effective doing it 32 times against the Longhorns when he just did it 32 times against the Golden Hurricane 7 days ago. Believe it or not, that was just the beginning of my week here on the recap. I'm going to hit the road before dawn tomorrow. Should be fun. I'm driving to Austin, Texas. Why so early, you ask, when the game's Saturday night? Well, I've got a sit-down scheduled with the athletic director, Chris Del Conte. He's been gracious enough to grant me a little time. I'm working on a story for the franchise as well as sporting news. Going to ask him some of those hard Hoover questions that you guys like so much. And then, of course, the game, Saturday night, 6:30, means I'm going to be getting home real late Saturday night. So looking forward to it. Going to be a lot of driving, a lot of podcasting in the car. That should be fun. Speaking of podcasts, it's the Inside OU podcast, part of the Franchise Podcast Network. I do it with Brady Trantham and Rufus Alexander. I'm telling you guys, you're not going to find a layered podcast like that where you're getting John Hoover, the media guy, you're getting Rufus Alexander, the former player, and you're getting Brady Trantham, the longtime, lifelong, know-it-all fan. We cover all the bases on the Inside OU podcast. That's it for this week. You will see me again next week right here on the recap. Thanks for watching. See you guys.